Well, there you are, the familiar side of the two Ferraris dominating the front of the grid. The two Williams came up very good from a very bad initial practice to fill the second row. Raikkonen and Button in the third row. David Coulthard, Heidfeld, Trulli, Frentzen, Massa, Fisichella. Panis, Benaldi, Villeneuve, De La Rosa, Mikasalo and Sato in the Jordan. McNeish, Webber, Jung and Irvine. Now, Webber and Jung aren't starting this race because they've had some aerodynamical problems, which we'll talk about a bit later. And Eddie Irvine's down the back of the grid because he had some fuel testing discrepancies, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, some drama. But first, the points of interest, and a bit of a sad piece of news here. We don't often have bad news for you, but the Australian Motorsport has lost two races very recently. Adventurer and driver Mike Miller passed away in Hong Kong on April 19 after a racing accident in the Philippines. The 44-year-old was competing at the Asian Festival of Speed in a single-seater Formula 2000 car. Survived by his wife Sarah and two young daughters. Closer to home, only yesterday, promising teenager Liam McGee died during qualifying for the Australian Superbike Championship. The accident happened at the fastest part of the Montmeló circuit in South Australia, where the 19-year-old was pronounced dead on the scene. Thoughts go out to his uncle, former 500cc racer Kevin McGee, and of course the entire McGee family. I spoke to Kevin this morning. He was absolutely devastated, and this young fellow apparently had a future that was very, very bright.
Well, you know, to say it's a tragedy, it's just the biggest understatement of all times. I mean, he had great talent and great plans and a good future. So just awful. Barrichello stalled on the grid. Now this is going to be very interesting indeed. It's about 20 degrees over there at the moment. The track temperature's not a great deal warmer than that. So it looks like we could have another situation that's going to help the Bridgestone tyres.
On a happier note, while we get through this, let's check out our Aussies that are racing overseas this week. Only two in action were Ryan Briscoe and Rob Nguyen, who again finished strong in yesterday's Formula 3000 race. Briscoe came 12th, Nguyen in 14th, so sadly no points, but they've both finished every race in their first season of the series. And Minardi. Now let's go to Minardi about the wing. The front wings came off, and then this morning the rear wing came off, so Paul Stoddard pulled the team.
They had a lot of trouble with their front wings collapsing, so he took them back to the Minardi factory in Italy. He then got one of his planes to fly from England to pick them up and fly them back to Valencia, where he announced it was very handy to have your own airline team in situations like this. I would have thought it'd be very handy to have your own airline for any situation. But this morning in the warm-up, Mark Webber's rear wing collapsed. So they weren't quite sure why that happened, so they've decided to withdraw the cars completely from the event in the interest of safety. Now, that's earned them a lot of respect from a lot of people in the area, not only the other drivers, but the other team owners. They've made this sacrifice in the interest of safety, not only for their own drivers, but something could have come off that car and hurt somebody else in another car. So big decision by Paul Stoddard, and one which I think is earning a lot of respect from the other guys.
All right, let's go over and catch up with what's happened to the second Ferrari. It's James Allen and Martin Brundle, of course, bring you all the action.
Beneath our commentary position at the top of this majestic new grandstand here at Barcelona, that's Ferrari Technical Director Ross Brawn, looking concerned. It's a distraction for him. He's got to think about the race effort, but he wants Rubens Barrichello in this motor race.
This is the grid where so many cars stalled last year. It was the first year of their launch control. They should have had that much fine-tuned by now, but of course Barrichello then is not going to make the grid at all, and looks as if he may not make the start of the race even from the pit lane. He's still surrounded by mechanics as the tail enders line up into their grid hatchings.
Eddie Irvine, the last car on the grid, then we're going to be racing here in Barcelona. It's 1 kilometre from where Michael Schumacher is now until turn 1. He'll be doing 170 miles an hour when he gets there. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Go! Great start by Schumacher. And where's Jenson Button? He's attacking Montoya from the rear. Ralph Schumacher's away well. Look at Button. He's ahead of both of the McLarens.
Yes, and Button, of course, starting 6th. Ralph Schumacher having a look at the back of Michael as he went into turn 1, but Michael with a clear lead then. No dramas that we can see at this time. Both Renaults did get away from the line very, very well.
But one of the McLarens has got Button back. It may well be Kimi Raikkonen, who started in 5th place on the grid, got him into turn one, but Jensen had got him on the run down to turn one. But Michael Schumacher still leading this race as we try and get Rubens Barrichello moving, and this sense of urgency is seeping away now, seeping away from the team. Rubens is still urgent, he wants to get in there.
And the worst feeling in the world, James, is when you're sitting in that car in the pit lane with dramas and you hear the engine revs rise on the grid and you just feel like the whole world is leaving without you. And Barrichello still stranded as Michael Schumacher leads Ralf Schumacher, Montoya, Raikkonen, Button, Coulthard, Trulli, Heidfeld, Massa and Frentzen round out the top 10.
Pretty much as you were on the grid then. Very different story from last year where we had the introduction of traction control and 5 or 6 cars were left behind. They've all perfected these systems now, and look already at the gap that Michael Schumacher has pulled out as he exits turn 13 and comes across the start-finish line to check his pit board. He's got many car lengths ahead, 1.5 seconds over his brother Ralf, and the battle is really intense between the McLarens and the Renaults.
And Barrichello is doing 2 miles an hour backwards into his pit garage. Rubens Barrichello will not start this Grand Prix. He is one of the most unlucky drivers I've ever encountered in Formula One. I feel so sorry for him. He really has been sensational this weekend. There you see him parked up in the garage now. Michael Schumacher with a 1.5 second lead from Ralf Schumacher. James, as Duncan Coulthard Sr. pointed out to me this week, nobody else other than the Schumachers won a Grand Prix this year, and we're at 1 and 2 already this afternoon. Let's hope it livens up a bit from there. There's still plenty of action to go. What can Montoya do about it? Third place man, he's just a few tenths behind Ralf Schumacher in second place. There then is a moderately clean run down to the first corner, and
see Button there behind the Williams. He's got ahead of the 2 McLarens on the right of your screen, and it was Raikkonen who managed to dive in front of him again into turn 1. A brave move by Kimi Raikkonen right round the outside of Jensen Button. Well, he's had a skinhead haircut, Kimi Raikkonen, this last week. He's the tough guy in Formula One, and he's certainly put a tasty move there on Jensen Button. The winners and losers from the start. Jarno Trulli has gained 2 places from 9th. Coulthard, Raikkonen and Schumacher, they've all moved up 1 because of the demise of Rubens Barrichello. But the big winner then, Jarno Trulli in the Renault, and he needs a slice of good luck as well, doesn't he?
he certainly does. He's P7 at the moment. It's pretty close formation, actually, other than Michael Schumacher scampering away into the lead. Rubens Barrichello then steps out of the car, shaking his head, saying, what is it? Why can't I get a car that works nicely? It was Michael, as ever, he broke down in the warm-up, Michael's Ferrari, a lap or 2 before it was crucially needed, and Rubens' car has been absolutely perfect and lets him down before even the start of the race.
He's got many tools in his armoury, hasn't he, Michael Schumacher? Skill, pace, mentality, but luck has always played a big role in his success. Somehow or other, it's Rubens Barrichello's car that seems to break down. And in fact, this guy has finished every Grand Prix now since the German Grand Prix last year. 9 straight races without a retirement. Well, there's a long way to go in this race yet. We're only on lap 3 as Pedro de la Rosa, the Barcelona driver in his home Grand Prix, is beached. The rear wheels spinning away futilely and pointlessly because he's not going anywhere fast. Bottomed out.
Yes, he might as well switch it off before he fries that Jaguar Cosworth engine, and it's down into turn 6 where he's lost it under braking, under downshift. That's a bit of a new boy error, really, not something somebody of De La Rosa's skill competing in his 50th Grand Prix today not the kind of mistake he should be making, James, no doubt about that. So De La Rosa, the only Spaniard in this Spanish Grand Prix, out of the race.
Well, King Juan Carlos told you that's a McLaren rear wing from the looks of things, is it? Seems to be black and silver and gold. We've seen enough wings lying on the racetrack this weekend already. We think it's Kimi Raikkonen's rear wing. We haven't seen a shot of Raikkonen, but something strange happening this weekend, Martin. 2 front wing failures from Minardi. Yeah, well, Raikkonen's had a 10-second slow first sector, so your guess of Raikkonen's rear wing seems to be correct, James. We'll have to pick it up shortly. That is Salo in the pits with some kind of problem. A new set of Michelins has gone on. Maybe he picked up a puncture. And let's have a look. Raikkonen has not appeared at the end of the second sector. He has lost his rear wing. I wonder if there was contact between him and Button.
Button was 7/10 behind as he went over the line, so not that close.
The information we're getting from our F1 ITV pit crew is that rear wing, just like Mark Webber's this morning, flew off on the main straight. So what will McLaren do now? I mean, we've seen the Minardi team withdraw from the Grand Prix because they've had a failure like that. There is, well, where Kimi Raikkonen is out on circuit touring round at the moment. Just caught sight of him from our high position here on top of the grandstand. Will the McLaren team feel that they have to withdraw David Coulthard's car, I wonder?
Well, they'll certainly want to know if that rear wing of Raikkonen's had a tag going into turn one. He went around the outside of Button, so I'd be very surprised. Ted's in the pits, what can you tell us?
Martin, they are bringing Kimi Raikkonen in right now. He's going to turn right into the garage. Well, he's actually going to return. It looks like the rear wing has buckled and it's actually stuck in the bits of his rear suspension. Now, they have got a new rear wing ready for him at the back of the garage, but it's a long job to replace that one, Martin.
It is indeed. You can replace the front wing in about 12 seconds. It's just 4 points. And I wonder if we... Yes, there is a replay then. And absolutely correct. The rear wing simply fell off with the pressure of the drag and the downforce. And the McLaren team will have to understand why that came off and really consider what they're going to do about Coulthard, who now runs 5th.
What is it about this racetrack then that's breaking these wings? Is there anything particular? I mean, it's a long straight, sure. There's a lot of long corners where the downforce is... It's not any worse, surely, than Interlagos in Brazil or any of the other tracks we've been to?
I don't think so. I mean, you've got a bit of altitude at Interlagos, but I still think you've got the same sort of energy going through the aerodynamic sections of the car. There are some ripples around the track, and there's a long run at high revs here in top gear down the pit straight. You tend to get harmonics. That can cause some of these problems. But it is a bit bizarre to see that this weekend.
And we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that this is the track where the teams do the most of their testing. So it's not like it's a surprise to them, the conditions here. They probably know more about this track than any other on the F1 calendar. There's Raikkonen's car you see in the McLaren garage now. The mechanics pouring all over it.
Fisichella in the pits too, so lots of drama early on in this Spanish Grand Prix. Fisichella is pitting. You're watching Michael Schumacher, who now leads by 4 seconds. Raikkonen is in the pits. There's Fisichella now. Salo has pitted and rejoined. Della Rosa is in the gravel trap. Barrichello did not even make the start. Lots of action and a lot of misery, James.
A lot of misery, and we're still only on lap 6. Michael Schumacher leads, though, by 4 seconds from his brother Ralph. In 3rd place is Montoya, 1.4 seconds behind Ralph Schumacher. Then it's Jenson Button, just 2.4 seconds behind the Williams and holding on, pretty much matching them for pace at the moment. David Coulthard, a further 2nd behind Jenson Button in 5th place. Jarno Trulli up to 6th in the 2nd of the 2 Renaults. And then your tip, Martin, the Saubers to trouble the front runners. They're both 7th and 8th. Heidfeld at the moment leading Massa. Heitaro Frentzen going well for Arrows in 9th place, and 10th is Olivier Panis.
So let's...
Montoya, as we attack the circuit going down to turn 1. This is the 3rd place runner, Juan Montoya. Finished on the podium here last year, and he said on Friday, if we get out of here with any points at all, I'll be happy. Well, he might do a bit better than that. Just listening to the gear changes. He works his way up to the back of the circuit. Seems to be quite gentle on the car at this stage at the moment. Lapping in the high 1:23 bracket, about half a second off the pace of Michael Schumacher. That's Ralph Schumacher, you can just see in the foreground. Going into turn 7, up the hill.
And that's a big change from Montoya's early driving style when he was absolutely thrashing his Formula 1 car in the first few Grand Prix of last season, where he really was struggling, and he just suddenly calmed down, made the car do the work. That's the clever bit. That's what makes the champions. Get the car right, let the car do all the hard work, sit back and just steer it sweetly, and then you get a lot more points that way.
We had a good slab of onboard camera from Montoya in Imola, and you couldn't see anything particularly wrong with his car that day, but he seemed strangely off the pace. It certainly needs a good result here this afternoon after being a little bit not quite at the races in Imola, outclassed by his teammate Ralph Schumacher that day.
And all season, it has to be said, by and large, doesn't it? Ralph definitely has the high ground in that team at the moment, and they're doing the more solid job, although Montoya in 3rd place has Ralph Schumacher in his sights, just 2.6 seconds adrift. and that then will be the fight for fourth between Jenson Button and David Coulthard. There's just 9/10 of a second between the pair of them.
Michael Schumacher's just done a snorter of a lap, a 1 minute 22.342, which is well over a second faster than Ralf Schumacher behind him, but a very, very close company between second place and sixth place at the moment. Ralf Schumacher second, Montoya third, fourth is Button, fifth is Coulthard, and still sixth is Jarno Trulli. We're looking at Jenson Button racing against David Coulthard, and everyone's asking them both about the honour of being top Brit. You were around in your career at the time of Nigel Mansell, and you were pretty much right there behind him, weren't you?
Well, we had 6 drivers in Formula One at one stage there, the Brits did, and quite often all 6 of us were well into the top 10. There was a bit of a heyday there, no doubt about it, 4 British drivers. But there's a bit of needle building up, I think, between Button and Coulthard. Button has more points, and the press are beginning to give it Button #1 British driver, so that's a nice little personal battle to follow.
Michael Schumacher on lap 10, you can see for yourself, 1 minute 22.299. He really is pushing very hard indeed. We've yet to find out exactly what happened to Rubens Barrichello on the start grid, but he didn't take the start to this race. Seemed not to be able to get a gear, seemed to be having problems with transmission. The engine was still running, but obviously they will be looking into that, finding out what happened to Rubens's car, and then seeing whether it'll have any repercussions for Michael later in the race.
Yeah, it'll be a clutch or an input shaft, the primary input shaft into the gearbox, which sometimes when you pop them into gear, it's just a little bit too much, goes bang. No such problems, though, for your race leader, Michael Schumacher, now 9.3 seconds clear. Over the line he goes to start the 12th of this Grand Prix. Let's see what the gap is now to his younger brother. And it's 10.4. Michael continues to pull away at over 1 second per lap.
Lap 12 of the Spanish Grand Prix, and that is Takuma Sato, who appears to have gone off in turn 13, the last corner on the circuit. He's in the sand trap, and to be fair, he's been there for quite a bit of the weekend. Seems to have run wide, as we've seen a number of cars do, just lost control.
He ran wide in turn 12, and he's obviously never regained the racetrack before burying it into the gravel trap in turn 13. Well, that was a bit embarrassing, wasn't it? A bit sort of scruffy and silly, really. And Sato has been visiting the scenery far, far too often. He's a new boy, but even so, there must be some concerns there, whether they need to take him out of the spotlight, polish him up a bit, and put him back in.
Yes, I've been a little bit disappointed with him because I thought he'd do better. But Louise is with Rubens Barrichello.
I am indeed, James. Rubens, we could hear your engine running, but that car wasn't going anywhere, was it? What was the problem?
I couldn't engage first gear. I tried everything. I pressed everything I could. We have so many buttons on the steering wheel. Nothing would work. Couldn't get first.
It's disappointing enough to go out of a Grand Prix at the best of times. Is it even more frustrating when you're on the grid?
Oh, it is. It is, because you put so much attention on Friday, Saturday to have a good weekend. I mean, it was a great weekend up to that point, and then you know, I was talking to Martin. I feel so good. I feel that I'm ready to win, and you know, and these things happen. So I'm looking for the next one. Unfortunately, I have to be strong enough in my mind to say next one will be okay.
Thanks, Rubens.
Well, a pretty level attitude. What more can he do? What more can he say? He's done everything expected of him this weekend, and the car failed him. Interestingly, McLaren have not chosen to take David Coulthard out of the race at this time. Remember, Kimi Räikkönen, his teammate, completely lost his rear wing at approaching 190 miles an hour. Did not have a major accident with it. Managed to keep it under control and get it back to the pits. McLaren must be searching the data, soul-searching a bit now. What are they going to do about Coulthard?
What indeed are they going to do? This is lap 13. Michael Schumacher leading by 10.4 seconds from his brother Ralph. Third is Montoya, fourth Button still, fifth Coulthard, sixth Trulli, seventh is Heidfeld, eighth is Massa, ninth Frentzen and 10th Panis. We've had a drama-filled first 14 laps. Rubens Barrichello, as we've just heard, retiring on the formation lap, unable to select first gear. A terrific run down to the first corner saw Jenson Button getting past Kimi Raikkonen for fifth place, but Raikkonen then repassed him with a very bold move around the outside into turn one. But just 3 laps later, Raikkonen's rear wing flew off on the main straight. We've seen it quite a few times this weekend already with Minardi's, but we didn't expect to see it from a McLaren, and we're waiting to see now what the response will be from the McLaren team regarding David Coulthard's car. We've also lost Giancarlo Fisichella. 16 runners still in the field. This is lap 14.
Ted is in the pits with some information.
Yeah, Martin, just down at McLaren, I can fill you in on what's been happening as they investigate Kimi Raikkonen's rear wing failure. Technical director Adrian Newey's been pacing around the back of the garage, investigating the bits that failed, going back to look at the data. He's now back on the pit wall. I can tell you he's been biting his nails. He's obviously a fairly anxious man that it might happen to the other car, but so far they do think that it's an isolated case because they have not and do not show any sign of bringing David Coulthard in.
Well, these parts are tested and x-rayed, and occasionally though you do get a bad batch of resin or carbon fibre material, finger trouble, whatever it is that's contributed to that. We don't think that rear wing had a knock, but with these high noses on current Formula 1 cars, James, as you see that Williams coming down to turn one, a very high nose, it does punch a bit of a nasty hole in the rear wing uprights if you do get a nudge, so it's not out of the question.
Well, he may well have had a nudge, and if they know that, if Raikkonen has told them that he felt something at the back, maybe that would make them feel a little bit easier. But I remember back in 1991 when you and I worked at the Brabham team, you had a very similar failure at the Hungarian Grand Prix, I think it was, sent you spinning off down into the gravel traps in turn one. If you were in David Coulthard's car now, would you want to be informed about what's happened to Raikkonen?
I think you'd want to be part of the process of the decision, but you carry on racing, to be honest. I mean, Raikkonen got away with that rear wing failure. I think you'd push it. That's the day when you're earning your money, and for sure you're not going to want to give up chance of some World Championship points unless it is a clear structural problem. I think Minardi were right to pull their cars out of the Grand Prix. They've had 3 failures this weekend and clearly could not get on top of it, so they made the sensible decision. Tough one on that with Coulthard, but there is Coulthard. I would carry on. Louise is with Eddie Jordan in the pits.
That's right, Martin. Eddie, things can only get better as the song goes. You must feel a bit like that at the moment.
Feel a little bit wounded at them. You know, it's one of these things. It's the inevitable thing happens. You know, you're trying so hard to turn it around very quickly, and then something like this happens. But I've got to go away and think about it, see where it needs to get the extra speed from. But the car itself much more improved this weekend, and as a result there's probably some glimmer of hope. But Taku flying off the road didn't help, and we have a hydraulic problem with Giancarlo's car, so yeah, bad day.
It's not the first time we've seen Sato go off. He's doing this a bit too often, isn't he?
Well, you know, I don't want to make a comment. I'd rather speak to him privately first. He deserves that chance. I need to know what happened to him. We don't know whether there was a problem with the car or not. It's easy to be rash and jump into something. On the face of it, it looks as if he made a mistake. But who knows, maybe the car let him down. And I really don't want to... I don't want to punish him before I actually know the full facts.
Thanks, EJ.
5 retirees, then 2 of them are Jordan, very sadly. Sato in the hedge, Fisichella hydraulic problems, Raikkonen rear wing failure, De La Rosa in the gravel trap, Barrichello early shower.
We heard there from Eddie Jordan, and this week he laid off almost 50 people at the Jordan factory near Silverstone. It's a time of attrition there for the Jordan team. He says he did it as much to sharpen the team up, to refocus them, because they've had a terrible 2002 season, still chasing their first points. He did as much for that as he did to save money. What's your view on it?
I guess those that are left will be looking over their shoulder and wondering if they're delivering every single ounce of effort that they can. It's a good, tight team. Jordan are one of the smaller teams anyway, so to lose 25% of the workforce is quite something. But quite clearly Eddie felt he needed to take action. and take action quickly. I hope it pays off for him.
Looking at Juan Montoya, currently running in 3rd place in this race, lap 17. And last week he was given the week off by the team, didn't have to do any testing. So he went off-road motorbiking with Damon Hill in Madrid. Had a thoroughly good time. And he seems to be having a good time here this afternoon, pressing hard, 2.5 seconds behind his teammate Ralf Schumacher now. The two Williamses, about 14 seconds behind race leader Michael Schumacher. Jenson Button then a gap to him, 6.3 seconds behind Montoya. And Button and Coulthard very close together, just 1.4 seconds between the two of them. Jarno Trulli also running strong. Lap 20 of the Spanish Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher still leading, 16.2 seconds ahead of his brother Ralf. And right behind him is Juan Montoya. Button is 4th, 5th is Coulthard, 6th is Jarno Trulli. And Michael Schumacher at the moment lapping around about a second a lap faster than anybody else, although Montoya has begun to respond now. He wants to start attacking Ralf Schumacher because he wants more than 3rd place out of this race today. Montoya, the man on the move. Button also looking pretty good in 4th place, keeping Coulthard behind him. And that's quite significant, really, isn't it? A Renault keeping a McLaren behind it on pace for the 2nd race in a row.
Absolutely, they're quite close. So there's a really good fight brewing up there between 4th, 5th and 6th. Button, Coulthard and Trulli. Coulthard really making a McLaren sandwich in between the two Renaults. Michael pushing a little bit harder up front now. The pace, fastest lap of the race last year was a 21.1. They're nowhere near that at the moment. They're still carrying quite a lot of fuel, of course, but I do sense, and I hate to say it, that Michael still has some capacity left to improve his lap time if he feels the need to. He's already 16.7 seconds clear, but I don't think he's on his ultimate pace at this time. But a few good fights shaping up behind him. Montoya relentlessly now moving in on 2nd place man Ralf Schumacher. Then, as I said, Button, Coulthard, Trulli in close formation, with Heidfeld and Massa in the Saubers, just lurking there, ready to punish the front runners if there are any problems. Frentzen is 9th, Panis, who you're now looking at, is 10th.
Yes, these Bridgestone teams, Arrows and British American Racing, have been handed a little bit of an opportunity this weekend. The Bridgestone tyre seems to be the one to have, and they've just been able to get a little bit further up the grid than they otherwise would have managed. Just looking down through the rest of the Brits, we know that Button's 4th and Coulthard 5th, but we should tell you that Eddie Irvine, who started at the back of the grid due to a fuel irregularity after qualifying yesterday, well, he's 14th. Alan McNish is right in front of him in the Toyota in 13th place.
Yeah, sadly though, they're lapping now nearly 3 seconds off the ultimate pace. That's night and day, isn't it, really? And you can't believe how hard you're working out there to go 3 seconds a lap slower. You think you're a superstar, you think you're getting every single ounce out of it, and you may well be out of your package, and yet you're still losing 3 seconds per lap.
Just looking at this battle then between the Arrows and the British American Racing car, there's been a step from the engine from Cosworth this weekend, which has certainly helped the Arrows team, but also they have a new front wing. They did their first test of the 2002 season because money has been a bit tight at Arrows so far this year. They did their first test last week at Silverstone, and they've developed this new front wing, which has certainly helped them here this weekend. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen up in 9th place as Michael Schumacher continues to lead this race with a new fastest lap of 21.732, edging ever closer to that lap record that you were talking about a moment ago.
Yes, indeed. So, as I said, every 4 or 5 laps they're using 10 kilos of fuel, and that's 0.4 of a second they will then find. So do expect a new lap record if you work that out, the calculation on that. There's a slow-mo of Frentzen just snatching an inside left unloaded tyre on the infield towards the end of the lap there for Frentzen. He's going well, isn't he? I have to say that's a solid run for him, albeit only 9th. I think that's a fine effort so far.
Yes, and speaking of Arrows, they've got a new innovation now. It's a sort of simulator experience you can have. They've brought it here to the Spanish Grand Prix. They say they're going to have it at Silverstone as well. For those of you planning to attend Silverstone, it's a terrific experience, highly recommended. I tried it on Friday night, and you put a virtual reality helmet on, and you can see what the driver sees, and you get the vibrations and everything. It's a really fantastic experience, so have a go if you get anywhere near it. This is Michael Schumacher, though. He's having a wonderful experience this afternoon. He's on lap 23, and he's out front where he likes it, and pushing very hard indeed now. Just dipped back into the 1 minute 22s. But the indications at the moment are that, as we suspected, maybe they're going to run a little bit longer on this first stint before making their first fuel stop. So perhaps sometime around the late lap 20 mark, we might see them start to come in. And when we do, then we'll see some action, because Ralf Schumacher and Juan Montoya are separated by just 1.8 seconds. That could turn over in a pit stop. Coulthard and Button, 2.4 seconds. That can turn over in a pit stop, and Trulli and Coulthard as well. So an awful lot still to play for in the points-paying positions this afternoon.
Yes, I think they're far from sorted at this time, but failing any kind of driver error or mechanical problem, Michael Schumacher surely's got the race in the bag. We have seen those things happen in the past, even Michael Schumacher making mistakes. But that car was on a tow rope this morning. Unusual to see a Ferrari on the end of a tow rope, but Michael, certainly in recent years, Michael getting his gremlins out of the way early, and at the moment the car seems great as he puts in a 1:21.661, still half a second shy of the record, but 1.2 seconds clear of the field.
Well, we heard Marc Genet, the Williams test driver, in the build-up to the programme, saying that it would be nice to see one of the Ferraris not finish today. That's what you are certainly going to see if things stay as they are, because Rubens Barrichello dropped out of this race before it even started. Couldn't get away from the parade lap, couldn't engage first gear, so the sole remaining Ferrari is that of Michael Schumacher. But let's face it, BMW, Williams and McLaren, they don't want to beat Ferrari by them not finishing. They want to beat Ferrari for pace, and that's something they're going to have to wait a while to do. As into the pits comes Jarno Trulli, who had taken nearly a second out of David Coulthard in the first part of that lap before, and he has now dived into the pits. That's why he was doing it. It's quite an early stop for the Renault team.
The rear seemed quite a long time going up there, the rear jack, but the pit stop time dictated really by the fuel flow at this stage of the Grand Prix. There is a BAR in the pits. It's Villeneuve pitting, McNish is pitting, so 3 cars in this time around, and the Williams mechanics are out and ready. So expect Ralf Schumacher or Montoya in. Michael Schumacher puts in a new fastest lap again, a 1:21.376, and we are waiting for one of the Williams as McNish leaves his first scheduled stop of the afternoon. Which Williams driver will it be making his way into that super fast pit lane entry? And it's Ralf Schumacher. Schumacher in the pits then.
From second place, Ralf Schumacher comes in. This hands second place to Juan Montoya, and it's going to hand a few places to other people as well. It's quite an early stop for the Williams. It takes 17.9 seconds plus whatever this clock says. Hopefully we'll get a clock in a moment. Come on, give us a clock. Give us a clock. Go on, give us a clock. No, you're not going to give us a clock. Oh, well, never mind. It looked pretty quick to me. 8.2 seconds. So that's a 26 second stop in total.
Button pitted as well that time around. So Coulthard now needs to put some hot laps in, and he is in fact doing that. His fastest, his personal best time of the race so far. David Coulthard now running into the top 4. That's Button departing his stop then and rejoins the track. We didn't see that stop, unfortunately, to know whether it was good or not. 8 seconds it was showing us on the screen, so not too bad. Coulthard has to get the pedal to the metal now if he wants to leapfrog up into a net and full 4th place position.
Yeah, so who's judged it right and who's judged it wrong as the arrows goes out? It's really all about timing your first stop. That's the one that you plan, and from then, well, you take it as it comes. That's the when the flexibility comes into the race strategy. Williams are ready, though, for their second driver, Juan Montoya, currently running in second place, and he's 24.2 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. Into the pits, though, comes Juan Montoya from second, and that will hand that position back probably to Ralf Schumacher, depending on what Schumacher's done on his outlap.
Yes, Coulthard will pick that position up at the moment because he hasn't yet pitted. That then is Sarlo in for his second stop, first scheduled, and of course he had a very early stop on lap 2 for a suspected puncture. That's Montoya with a very tardy stop. A very tardy stop indeed, but he did have a 10-second advantage to the man behind him, so I don't think he'll lose track position with that, but not a great stop.
No, it looked like he had a problem with the front right tyre, and that could drop him down to about 7th place as things shake out. But Louise has got the skinhead with him, Kimi Räikkönen.
I have indeed, James. Kimi, any ideas what caused that failure?
No ideas. It's just fell off, and that's all what I know.
So you didn't have any taps from anybody?
No, just normal first couple laps, and it just suddenly came off on the straight.
Have the team looked at bringing David in?
Huh?
Have the team looked at bringing David in? I mean, surely there's a question mark over the safety of the wing.
No, I don't know. You need to ask from the team members.
Thanks, Kimi. Back to you, James.
So in the pits, the race leader on lap 27, Michael Schumacher. A little bit of a problem getting the fuel hose off, but he's got a big enough margin to be able to survive that. And he should rejoin comfortably in front of the BMW Williamses of Juan Montoya and Ralf Schumacher. And we're waiting for things to shake out here. We're still waiting also for David Coulthard to make his stop.
I was kind of hoping they'd put the front tyres on the rear and vice versa and slow him down a bit, James. It'd still be interesting to see how fast he went, wouldn't it? But a reasonable stop then for Schumacher. As you said, it seemed a bit notchy, didn't it, getting that fuel hose off, but he was so far ahead it will not make any difference.
Do you remember a few years ago, I think it was 94, when he was stuck in 5th gear here, and he still managed to do a fantastic race, and in fact finished 2nd behind Damon Hill that day. Juan Montoya though pressing very hard on his outlap as the first of the Saubers comes in. That's Felipe Massa. Heidfeld, his teammate, is up to 3rd place at the moment, but of course he's still to stop. And David Coulthard is up to 2nd with these round of pit stops, but he's going to have to make his stop at some point as well. How much fuel has Coulthard got on board as Frentzen exits the pits?
And Coulthard's been lapping very quickly. He's down into the 1:22s now, having cleared the dirty air of following Jenson Button's Renault. There is Coulthard. If he can stay, if he's been saving fuel, he can stay out there for another lap or so. I think he has a great chance of pulling that 4th place at this stage of the Grand Prix. Certainly as Eddie Irvine rejoins, he came in from 11th position. He will drop back down, I think, to 13th or 14th. Coulthard then on another reasonable lap. Turn 12, he does not pit, so he still has enough fuel on board. The team will know clearly, so will David Coulthard, exactly what he saved or has remaining at this point. And another lap deep into the low 1:22, so looking good for Coulthard.
Indeed it is. The man he's racing is Jenson Button. If you remember, Button was in front of him before. He needs 25 seconds to be safe of getting out in front of Jenson Button, and at the moment he hasn't got it. He's 2 seconds short of having enough speed to be able to get back out in front of Button, so that's what he's working towards as Nick Heidfeld pits from 3rd place in the Sauber.
So the only runner then, the only runner not to stop is David Coulthard, currently in 2nd place, 11 seconds behind the race leader Michael Schumacher, but Schumacher has already stopped.
Last time Coulthard did a 1:22.4, Button a 1:22.7. So Coulthard needs to find 2 seconds from somewhere if he's going to make the stop and get out in front of Button. That's his target for the day. Well, we saw it 2 weeks ago in Imola, didn't we? A battle between Coulthard and Button. It's engaging, it's exciting, it's a battle of Brits, and at the moment it's wide open here in Barcelona between the two of them. Coulthard though pushing hard in search of points. There's his girlfriend Simone Abdelanour or something. You know how to pronounce it, don't you?
I do indeed. And he's got 2 personal bests on this lap already. He goes over the line with a 22.342 for another personal best. Really going to be nip and tuck between our 2 Brits for this position. Unfortunately, they're squabbling over 4th at this stage. A long way to go in this Grand Prix, but this is brewing up to be quite a contest through the rest of this season, isn't it?
Yes, and it's interesting because Ralf Schumacher managed to stay in front of Juan Montoya after the pit stops, but not by much. It was just less than a second, in fact, between them on the road now. So Montoya very nearly got Ralf in that round of pit stops. I bet he would dearly have loved to get in front of his teammate.
I'm sure he would, and remember, Montoya had a pretty poor stop, didn't he, of over 10 seconds, so Ralf must have been a bit tardy on the in or the out laps, because that's really put the 2 Williams very, very close together indeed.
Yes, well, Sir Frank Williams likes his drivers to race, so if they are together on the racetrack, he will want them to have a go at each other. There's no team orders at the Williams team, but we're waiting to see now. The McLaren mechanics are running out onto the pit apron, so David Coulthard, we expect him in this time by. Has he done enough? Has he done enough to get back in front of Jenson Button? Well, that's a big question, isn't it?
It's going to be nip and tuck, and that is a Williams and Ralf Schumacher pulling pieces off his car. Montoya's gone through, so a problem for Ralf Schumacher. Has he had some kind of front wing issue, or has he collected somebody else or something else? Ralf Schumacher pulling something from the front of his car. Ted is in the pits for the Coulthard stop.
Martin, I don't think David Coulthard has done enough to get ahead of Jenson Button. I think he's going to have his work cut out to stay ahead of the Arno Trulli. The fuel hose comes off, now he gets away. It's an okay stop. Is it enough though?
We don't know, but Ralf Schumacher is pitting. Coulthard did a 9-second stop. I don't think it'll be enough at this stage. It's going to be so close at the end of the pit lane. But here then is Ralf Schumacher with a new nose. It did seem a piece of his own nose probably came up. And no, I don't think...
No, Button's in front. Button is in front of David Coulthard. It didn't do enough, but what's going on with Ralf Schumacher? They're having a meeting here. A new front left is called for. So maybe it was a piece of the wheel hub, maybe it was a rim that came off. Whatever it was, it certainly hit Ralf Schumacher on the helmet. Drama at the BMW Williams garage, 28.3 seconds. That'll drop him a long way down the field, but is that car sustainable for the rest of the race? Weird movement.
He went wide, look. He went wide in La Caxa and broke his own front wing. But I wonder if he felt there was a problem. Here we're on board with Montoya following Ralf Schumacher. There's Ralf Schumacher running off left. Maybe Ralf felt he had a problem with the left front that made him understeer off the racetrack up there at turn 9.
Maybe that's what number 275 in the Racing Driver's Book of Excuses. Who knows? We'll have to have a look at that tyre and see what the story was. But Juan Montoya, he'll take gifts like that any day from his teammate Ralf Schumacher. Misfortune for the German is fortune for the Colombian. He's up into second place. And as the Williams team study that tyre to see what put Ralf off the road, Michael Schumacher, lap 31, leading the Grand Prix. After the first round of pit stops, they'll all be stopping again though. He's 23.4 seconds ahead of Montoya in second place. Button in a podium position now, yet to score a podium in his Grand Prix career, and he'd dearly love one here this afternoon. He's 12 seconds behind Montoya. Just a second behind Button is Coulthard, then it's Trulli in 5th, Heidfeld in 6th, Massa still 7th, Panis 8th.
Yes, Button kept that position over Coulthard by 9/10 of a second. So we're in for another sector of the race with those two nip and tuck, and we look forward to the second round of pit stops then to see which of those two can come out on top, because there is clearly a podium up for grabs for Button or Coulthard today. But truly, Heidfeld and Massa are all keeping a close watch in 5th, 6th and 7th.
Yes, Ralf Schumacher is still in this race at the moment. He's down in 13th place. He's 72 seconds now behind his brother. So any hopes of picking up a win have gone. There, though, the battle between the two Brits. Jenson Button in the Renault, David Coulthard in the McLaren. So much at stake here. And Jenson Button saying yesterday that he's not really a very goal-oriented person. People were saying to him, the target here, surely, Jenson, is to beat McLaren. He says, I don't really think about goals and targets from day to day. I just think about getting in the car and doing my best. I'm not a goal-oriented person. Coulthard, though, I think is more goal-oriented, isn't he?
I mean, they've all got an ultimate goal, which is to be the best at any one time, all day, every day. And quite where that means they end up in the pack, it doesn't interest them, I don't think. They're not first. They're nowhere in their minds. But certainly, you know, these pair have really been racing so close now. Brazil was the same deal, wasn't it? Brazil, San Marino, and now here at the Circuit de Catalunya. And we certainly have a race on our hands.
And it looks to me as though Coulthard's perhaps a midges faster at the moment. He seems to be monstering the back of Button. Maybe the second set of tyres for Button is not suiting him quite as much as the tyres that Coulthard's got on board. Now, we discussed this whole issue of how many new sets they all had. Jenson Button definitely had 3 new sets of tyres going into this race, but I was told that Coulthard only had 1, and that was at the start. So I think he went out on old tyres after his first stop, and that may just be playing into his hands at the moment.
Well, there were certainly old tyres that I saw them put on down there, right underneath our commentary box position. Coulthard fighting the back end of the car and has lost a couple of 3/10 with that. So it's really a bit of yo-yo, isn't it, through the circuit. Coulthard does appear to have a better car under braking. Remember how Raikkonen outbraked Button down into turn 1 and went round the outside of him on lap 1. But it seems as if there may be better traction on that Benetton. When I did the voiceover on Button's onboard camera this morning, it really struck me how good the car was and how smooth and serene Button is behind the wheel. We know that's how he likes to drive, and interestingly, so does Coulthard. They both like to be very smooth with the wheel, the throttle pedal and the brakes, and Coulthard quite clearly has the faster car right now.
He does. He seems to be able to carry more speed through the corners than the Renault at the moment. It's been a tough start to the season for the McLaren team. They really do need some solid points today. And Jenson Button's a hard character enough, that's for sure, and he's been training recently with an ex-Marine who has him running up sand hills with ski sticks, and he has him cycling up to the top of mountains. A fellow called Bernie Shrewsbury, who tells me that Jenson's very hard psychologically now, very tough indeed, and he believes he has a champion mentality. Well, Bernie should know he's trained a few champions in his time.
But Jenson's really not having a good middle sector of the race. 1:23.8. That's pegging Coulthard about the same speed. So truly is homing in on the pair of them, some 0.6 of a second per lap. And Coulthard, I noticed from the computers, some 4 or 5 kilometres per hour faster down the main straight. If he gets a sniff of a slipstream from Button's car, and we know he's better under braking from what we've seen in the previous 2 laps, he will have a great chance to slingshot up the inside, and he's nearly close enough this time around. Indeed he is. Can he make it stick? Yes, he can. And Coulthard there really saying, I'm coming through, up to you, take it or leave it. And then he did get in that sweet spot, straight into P3.
Very well read indeed, Martin. It's exactly the way it played out. And clearly the way Button is dropping back now into the clutches of Jarno Trulli, there is something wrong. It may well be that this new set of tyres he put on his pit stop don't suit him as well as the first set do. That's a gift for David Coulthard, but it's a gift he had to work quite hard for. Now he's up into 3rd place. Button is down to 4th, Trulli is 5th, and Heidfeld's still in 6th place. Here it is again. You saw the drive that Coulthard got out of turn 13, and it was enough. He was brave, he was committed. He's done that to Michael Schumacher in the past, so he had no qualms about doing it to Jenson Button.
Yes, indeed. We have seen a few gestures from David to Michael in those moments, but I have to say Jenson was very fair there, extremely fair, and really probably ought to have covered his line a little bit early. He is allowed to move once, although I think that would have put Coulthard on an even better line to sweep down the outside instead into turn 1. But a textbook manoeuvre then from David Coulthard to take up 3rd position.
Very interesting looking at the lap times at the moment. Michael Schumacher lapping in the mid 1:21 range, which is very much the fastest he's done all race as he comes up to lap his brother in the BMW Williams. Ralf Schumacher running down in 13th place still after something flew off his car, hit his helmet just after the first round of pit stops. Michael lapping in the 1:21 range, and Montoya in 2nd place is 2 seconds a lap faster than him. Button lapping, well, 4 seconds a lap slower than Michael Schumacher, so something not quite right about that Renault car.
And we're looking forward now then to see how quickly Coulthard can catch Montoya, 2nd place man, because he is catching him at 5/6 of a second per lap, so that should be Coulthard's next target. And you're right, James, it seems that it's only Coulthard at the moment that's making the Michelin's work in this sector of the race. Michael Schumacher leads by 28.7 seconds from Juan Pablo Montoya. Coulthard 3rd, Button 4th, Trulli 5th, and Heidfeld 6th.
Lap 38 of the Spanish Grand Prix, and that was Jarno Trulli, it looked like, getting past Jenson Button. So Button really struggling now. He's gone from 4th down to 5th place, and Trulli has taken that. Coulthard is 3rd, 2nd Montoya, and 1st still Michael Schumacher. And this is the battle for 8th place between Olivier Panis in the British American Racing car and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Arrow. So we only saw a flash of that Button Trulli thing, but it just seems that Jenson's really struggling with the balance of this car.
Yes, I think he went too deep into a corner, and we're going to see a pass then. Now we can see how Panis made it past Frentzen to take over. In fact, sorry, no, that's the other squabble between a BAR and an Arrows, and that was Villeneuve just passing Benoldi for P10. So very close company then, both Arrows both BARs down the 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th.
Yes, and the Sauber's still going strongly as well. 6th place, Nick Heidfeld, and 7th place, Felipe Massa. And you've got the battle we've just been looking at with Panis and Frentzen, Benoldi 10th, Villeneuve down 11th. It's been a pretty duff weekend for Jacques Villeneuve once again. Louise, what can you tell us?
Well, I've just been down to the Renault garage to see if I could find out what was happening with Jenson. The suggestion from the team is, although Jenson hasn't confirmed it 100%, but the suggestion is that that close overtaking manoeuvre we saw from Coulthard, the pair have actually touched, and that's caused some damage to Jenson's car. He's obviously got a problem with it. He has just allowed his true mate Trulli to come past, so Jenson's struggling at the moment.
Yes, there was, without doubt, there was just a little touch. Be surprised if that really damaged his suspension. May have tweaked his steering arm, but you have to say Jenson was losing a lot of pace even before that incident, wasn't he?
He was. That's how Coulthard was able to get him. Yeah, it's probably more to do with the tyres, I fancy. I don't think this second set of tyres is much good for Jenson Button. That is the order then, the top 8, as we're on lap 39. They've all stopped once, and we're expecting them to stop again sometime between lap 41 to 45. They made earlier stops than we had expected, and that must be because the tyre wear was a little higher than anticipated. The track temperature at the moment is 22 degrees, the air temperature 19 degrees, so not by any means the warmest Grand Prix we've had so far this season, but still warm enough. There's Schumacher leading this race as he has from the start. We lost Rubens Barrichello, his teammate, on the formation lap. We've had a terrific battle throughout the race between Jenson Button and David Coulthard. Coulthard passed Button, and now Trulli has passed Button as well. We've lost Ralf Schumacher from the top 6 following a strange incident where something seemed to fly off his car and hit his helmet. He's dropped down to 13th place, but he is still running. Montoya, though, advantaged by that, and he is up in 2nd place.
Yes, indeed, and that is Benoldi in the pits then for really an early second stop for him, and quite clearly an unexpected stop. They were not ready for him, his tyres were not ready, there's no refueling going in. He is reporting on the radio that there's a problem. Ted?
Yeah, I can tell you about the Williams. I've just been next door. They're saying that Ralph is keeping very quiet on the radio. But what they do know is that that front left tyre, the only one that they changed, it was late coming out, so a couple of mechanics are going to get a talking to from Patrick Head. But that one tyre, it's the one that takes all the load, and that is actually upsetting the handling of the car, and that's why he's over a second slower than Montoya.
Thanks for that, Ted. And you were watching Jenson Button coming under increasing pressure from 6th place man Heidfeld. A 41.8 second stop for Benoldi. So dramas there. That was not a scheduled stop. They were not ready to refuel or change the tyres, and that has very much spoiled his afternoon. Button just holding station then ahead of Heidfeld. They're lapping now in the 1 minute 23s. The leader in the 1 minute 21s. 2 seconds a lap, therefore just about exactly actually off the pace, but that is shaping up into a good squabble for the final points-paying position at the moment. Button has gone from looking like a really good podium chance to, hey, am I going to get any points?
Yes, he's in recovery mode at the moment, Jenson Button. It may turn round for him again the second round of pit stops. He may find a little bit more pace if he gets the car sorted out, maybe a little wing change, maybe a new set of tyres might make the difference, but at the moment he's got to think about defensive driving. He's got to think about Nick Heidfeld, and the Williams team are in the pit lane right below me, and they've got a new nose cone ready for one of their 2 cars. I can't see what number is on it. It's number 5. I think it's number 5, which would make sense. That would be Ralf Schumacher. So he's obviously not having much change out of the front wing bits of it that are left, and he wants a little bit more front downforce. That would make sense.
Yes, he's lapping 3.5 seconds off the pace, Ralph, so quite clearly the new nose they put on wasn't set up, or he's not generating the same level of downforce as he was expecting and previously had, or maybe he has got some kind of drama there that's giving him that big understeer. He did just understeer straight off the racetrack up there in turn 9, and the piece we saw him pulling off the front of the car either was some debris from an earlier incident, or I think more likely a piece of his own front wing. This is lap 42 of this 65-lap Spanish Grand Prix.
And Michael Schumacher, you can see, is lapping at a different rate, very much from the man behind him. And there is Ralf Schumacher into the pits. Off comes the nose. There goes the new one. Ralf was in 13th place before this stop. May well lose it to Mika Salo when he comes out, but I'm sure it won't take him long to pass Salo again.
It wasn't the normal, angry, urgent getaway, was it? I think Ralph's given up for one afternoon. He certainly is a long way behind. But we saw Coulthard here start at the back of the grid last year and then have to have a new nose and still came through for some World Championship points. So never give up, especially here in Barcelona.
No, especially when your teammate Juan Montoya is about to score 6 World Championship points, and that'll put him very much in contention with his teammate. Currently Montoya is 3 points behind Ralf Schumacher, so this will leapfrog him into second place if the situation stays as it is at the moment.
Yes, and Coulthard is definitely homing in on second place man Montoya. The gap down now to 11.2 seconds from 14.6 I think it was at one point. So 3/4 tenths of a second per lap. It's really quite got enough time. They're going to need a great pit stop, aren't they, at McLaren? They want to snatch second place and be best Michelin runner of the afternoon.
Yes, they've virtually owned this place the last few years, McLaren. Many wins for Mika Häkkinen over the years, but somehow this year they've just not been on the pace, certainly of Ferrari, but not even really of the Williams team either. There's Eddie Irvine. He was running in 12th place, a lap down on the front runners, and he's coasting in at the moment, not even hit the pit lane speed limit level yet. Visor up, so whatever it is on that Jaguar, it's not going to get him back into the race. We've already lost Pedro de la Rosa after just 2 laps, so not a good day for the Jaguar team.
They have 3 points on the board, of course, for this season, but I think quite clearly that's not going to be added to today. Both Jaguars then appear to be out of the Grand Prix. De La Rosa spun off earlier on, and in the pits we have Heidfeld and Button.
Yeah, this is the race for the final points paying position, and it looks like Heidfeld has made the jump, and he's just on it side by side down the pit lane. Who's going to get it? Who's going to get it? Unbelievable, right below me, and Button has lost out to Heidfeld, I believe. Yes, he has, there you have it. They were side by side down the pit lane, but Button wants it back.
Yes, indeed, but Heidfeld was not going to leave the door open at all for him, was he? And therefore, then, Button slips down to 6th place, it will be, effectively. Heidfeld moves up one, and neat work from the Sauber mechanics. On board with Jenson Button, and he can see, with great frustration, he's lost yet another place in this Grand Prix.
And it was only a fraction of a second in it. It really was only a fraction of a second. Heidfeld's pit garage is further up the pit lane than Button's due to their the way they finished the championship last year, with the Sauber team 4th and the Renault team down in 7th. And as Heidfeld came alongside him on the left, Jenson came down off the jacks and tried to run side by side with him. And Heidfeld kept his foot in, so did Button, and that was the result. Into the pits though, right below me is Jarno Trulli as well. Now what is Trulli going to be able to do as a result of all of this? He was up into 4th place, and we'll wait to see. There is Jarno Trulli now, just having his stop. Felipe Massa, as a result of this early stops from everybody, is up into 5th place. Not too great.
He was really quickly away. The lollipop was very urgent there. The refueling nozzle was just coming out, and up went the lollipop, and Trulli was already dragging the clutch away anyway, but it worked out fine, thank goodness. Trulli rejoins the racetrack. Panis has pitted from 7th position. There is Panis. Seems like a normal and regular stop, certainly scheduled at this stage of the Grand Prix. The lead is on lap 45. Michael Schumacher has yet to make his second stop. That goes for Montoya in 2nd and Coulthard in 3rd place too.
Yes, we're deep into the 2nd round of pit stops. You can see there amongst the front runners who stopped and who has not, as Panis pulls off the racetrack. Olivier Panis was in 7th place, within sight of a points-paying position possibly, and he has yet to finish a Grand Prix this year. This is the 5th Grand Prix of the season, and that guy has had absolutely no luck at all.
It's a shame, isn't it? And quite clearly, I would imagine, transmission problem from dropping the clutch, leaving the pit lane. As I said before, hot tyres go on. If there's a lot of grip, they practice all weekend leaving a lot of rubber down in their pit stop zone, so they can get a getaway. And if the tyre bites and doesn't want to turn, something has to give with all that energy. So often it's a part of the transmission.
Fourth place, Felipe Massa has just dived into the pits below us as well. So it's all going off in the midfield here. That's one of the two Arrows cars in the pits, and that is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who had managed to get himself up into 5th place before he dived into the pits. So a strong run here today for the Arrows team. They could badly do with the result, couldn't they? It's been 15 races now since they scored a World Championship point. It's the worst record of any team in Formula 1 at the moment, and with their rivals having scored points like Minardi, they really need them. But into the pits comes second place man Juan Montoya as we cut to the Toyota of Alan McNish. A bit of a slow stop, not a great getaway, but what's Montoya up to behind? There he is. Oh, it's run over his foot. Oh, I don't believe it. That looks so painful.
And the nozzle was on as well. What on earth is going on? The fuel nozzle was still on. We'll have to get a replay and see if the lollipop went up. In fact, the man that got run over, no, I thought he had the lollipop maybe, but Montoya legging it far too early. And the nozzle was still in. The men were in front of the car. What on earth was that all about?
It shows you just how dangerous these pit stops are. It looks like clockwork, and so often it is clockwork. But when a little bit of a cog comes unstuck, then it means human pain. And in this case, a lot of pain for that front jack man. Here it is, you see Montoya's on the move. The lollipop was off, it was the lollipop man.
It was the lollipop man that got run over, and he did appear to lift that, didn't he? Ted, what did you see?
Yeah, I saw very much the same as you. I can tell you it is Carl Gaydon who's the lollipop man for Williams, and I can tell you that a doctor has actually gone into the thing. I don't think he's very badly injured, but a doctor has now run into the Williams pit just to attend to Carl Gaydon.
Yes, he stepped forward, didn't he, to re-establish the lollipop, because the fuel nozzle was a long way from being out. So I don't think it was Montoya's fault, and that is going to put him and Coulthard in very close contention. And Coulthard is pitting for his second scheduled stop. He's down in front of the commentary box here. There he is now on your screen. So Coulthard and Montoya, after that drama in the Williams pit, will be very close and away for a great-looking pit stop from McLaren. So now we've got a race on for P2. Michael Schumacher is way out in the lead. Here is Schumacher, and he pits too for the second time this afternoon.
But I believe that Montoya has got out in front of, is in front of David Coulthard. I think he had enough in his pocket, even despite running over Carl Gaydon's foot, to still make it out, and he's holding on to second place ahead of David Coulthard as the race leader comes in.
I tend to agree with you. He had 10 odd seconds advantage over Coulthard at that point, but I just think it'll now be much, much closer.
Wow. What an exciting little period of time. A bit too exciting if you're Carl Gaydon. And it's worth remembering that the job of the lollipop man is taken usually by the chief mechanic in a team. It's a very, very responsible job, because the well-being of every man standing around that car hinges on the guy who has to lift up that stick, because if anything is still attached, if a wheel gun is still attached, someone is going to get hurt. It's very rare that the guy on the lollipop gets hurt, but unfortunately today it looks like his left foot, the bottom part of his left leg, did get run over by Juan Montoya, who will no doubt be very concerned and be on the radio right now wanting to know more as a stretcher comes down into the Williams garage just below us to take the chief mechanic from Williams away to the medical centre. So obviously an injury there for Carl Gaydon.
So Montoya crosses the line, then I think he's coming up to lap his teammate Ralf Schumacher, and there is Coulthard. So the gap is down to just 5.2 seconds. Now then, Coulthard does have a chance of that second place. He can keep eking away 3/4 tenths a lap as he was in the middle part of the Grand Prix.
Well, on lap 48 of this 65 lap and highly eventful Spanish Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher is leading by over a minute now from Juan Montoya in second place. Coulthard is third, Trulli is fourth, Heidfeld is still in front of Jenson Button, and in fact pulling away now from the Englishman in fifth place, and Felipe Massa is putting Button under pressure now.
Yes,
for that final points position. Sauber already on for 2 points with Heidfeld, and they're looking for another with Massa, and it really hasn't been Jenson Button's afternoon, well certainly the second half of it hasn't been Jenson Button.
Yeah, it's sad to say, and he's lapping back in the 124s now, so I really fancy there's a car problem for Jenson Button, and he's falling into the clutches of this young Brazilian, Felipe Massa, and he looks like he's a sitting target at the moment, doesn't he? He doesn't appear to be able to attack the racetrack at all. Massa then just a few metres behind, and in the background you can see Frentzen too, currently in 8th place. Hannes we saw drop out of the Grand Prix. That released Frentzen, and he's just 3.5 seconds behind this battle, and a chance of a... Here we go again with that replay. Look, and yes, the lollipop man really did have to try to stop him because the fuel nozzle was still fully engaged as far as I could see. Nasty incident there. It so often seems to happen. Remember, Ferrari had problems here, didn't they, on pit stops too. And what we're seeing here is a big effort then from Massa to pass Button, and this is a replay, I believe, and I think Button then holds it back down into turn 5, maintains position. Yes, indeed, he does. It's the front wing of that Sauber flapping around there.
Yeah, I saw that. That's weird, isn't it?
End of the straight. And if he's nerfed that on something, but Michael Schumacher then, a new lap record, that is, James, 120.355, smashes the current lap record by over 0.8 of a second. So still then Button fending for all he's worth that final point paying position in 6th, and Frentzen now just 1.7 seconds behind the battle.
Yes, it really has been nip and tuck between Renaults and Saubers in the second half of this race, but Button was racing McLarens earlier on. His teammate Trulli, and he's up the road in 4th place, benefiting from Jenson's bad luck, and Trulli's looking for his first points of the 2002 season. He's certainly on target for them this afternoon. 16 laps to go though. How much longer can Button hold on? But Massa seems to be moving about in a strange way. As you said before, his front wing was flapping, but he just had a very strange underbraking into that corner.
Right, he does put double the steering input into his car of any other Grand Prix driver, and he does have an unusual driving style, does Felipe Massa.
Yes, you see him weaving there. And Ted, what can you tell us about the injury to the Williams mechanic?
Yeah, James, I can give you an update about Carl Gaydon. He's actually the chief mechanic. I can give you an update as to his condition. He is okay. Do not worry about him. He's all right. The stretcher was just a precaution. The medics are in there. They're treating him now. They're just bandaging up his foot. It was a bit of a knock, but I'm glad to say he is all right.
That's great news then. And I'm sure they'll radio that through to Montoya, because he's got to be, even as tough and as hard a man as Montoya is, he will be very, very concerned about having effectively run over his man. He'll be wondering, did I get that wrong? What happened there? And did I misread the situation? Although I think it was absolutely clear it was not Montoya's fault.
Certainly wasn't. It's been an eventful afternoon here in Barcelona. Rubens Barrichello qualified on the front row of the grid. He retired on the formation lap, unable to get a gear. Kimi Raikkonen in 5th place. His rear wing flew off on the 3rd lap. And no news from McLaren about how that happened, but we think it might well have been some sort of contact. Anyway, it wasn't enough for them to be worried about David Coulthard having the same kind of problem, so they did not decide to bring in Coulthard. But the first round of pit stops, a terrific battle between Jenson Button and David Coulthard went in Button's favour. Button was up into 3rd place in the Grand Prix. Ralf Schumacher, he's had his fair share of incident this afternoon as well. He ran wide, breaking his front wing and allowing Montoya through into 2nd place, which is where he is at the moment. And Jenson Button fallen further and further back since the pit stops into the clutches of the Sauber team. Lap 52 of this 65-lap race. Schumacher leads, Montoya 2nd, Coulthard 3rd, Trulli 4th, Heidfeld 5th, and Button still 6th. Lap 53 of the Spanish Grand Prix. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you here in Barcelona. You're on board with the man they call the Monster, Juan Montoya. He's 2nd at the moment behind Michael Schumacher, 41.8 seconds behind the race leader. Behind Montoya, 6.5 seconds is David Coulthard. He's not really closing the gap though at the moment to the Colombian. Their last laps were almost identical. Jarno Trulli is 4th, Nick Heidfeld is still in 5th place, and continuing to resist the advances of the 2nd Sauber of Felipe Massa is Jenson Button in the Renault. He has run as high as third here this afternoon, but he's now in fifth as Montoya continues to circulate. Finished second here last year, and at the moment he's on target for a repeat.
Button, P6, Massa 0.8 of a second behind, and actually falling back a little bit into the grips of Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Arrows. Wouldn't it be good to see Arrows score a point here this afternoon? And so tantalisingly close for Frentzen. Look, he's just got to clear Massa, and he's then got a crack at Button for a chance of a World Championship point. Frentzen really has been driving very, very well this weekend. Super impressed with that. This is the main battle then of the Grand Prix at the moment. Michael Schumacher popped in that new lap record, 1:20.3. Now he's having a grin. He's dropped back into the late 1:23s. Just having a laugh back there, I think. Just demonstrating his total and utter dominance and superiority this afternoon.
Yeah, certainly the other teams have been caught on the hop by Ferrari's technical department. I spoke to one team yesterday who said they reckon Ferrari is 6 months ahead of everybody else, but then if you go down and talk to a BMW Williams team, they reckon they've made a big step this weekend with their developments of the BMW engine and some aerodynamics as well. It didn't really show as much around this track, largely because of the tyres that they were using, Michelin's versus Bridgestone's, but they reckon in Austria in a couple of weeks' time you're going to see something from the BMW Williams team. Let's hope so. But in Formula One, dominance never lasts for long, does it? Massa making a slightly awkward entry to the corner, and has that given Frentzen a chance?
Yeah, he got wrong-footed on the exit of the previous corner, James, so I had to get a little bit defensive, and Massa's apparent sudden lack of pace has really given Button a bit of breathing space, only by 0.7 of a second, and suddenly, instead of being the attacker, Massa's totally on the defence from the vastly more experienced Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
Yes, on the defensive indeed. What's the key then to defensive driving? You've got a bloke breathing down your neck, all your mirrors are full of a bright orange car. You stay in the middle of the road, you weave, do you pray for help?
You've got to be tactical, and Frentzen's just trying to distract him. This is his 134th Grand Prix, Frentzen, and obviously number 5 then for Massa. If you've got to get defensive, you've got to get smart about it, you've got to plan it, and make sure you don't get your tyres dirty, and don't leave yourself coming out of a corner too slowly. If you're going to hold him up, make sure it's on the apex, slow him up as well as yourself, and make sure you get on the throttle pedal. As ever, you'll be at least a car length ahead of him then on the throttle, and he'll have a job to get you by the next corner. But if he manages to, it's like a game of chess, and Massa there locking his left front again, that would have cost him valuable time into that turn 7. And he still maintains position. Jenson Button saying thank you very much, that's giving me some breathing space.
Well, they say this is a very difficult track on which to overtake, but we've seen some fantastic moves here this afternoon. We've seen Coulthard put a move on Jenson Button. We've also seen Heidfeld put a move on Jenson Button as well, side by side down the pit lane. So it is possible to pass here at Barcelona, and Frentzen has that intention clearly. And Massa, only, as you say, Martin, his 5th Grand Prix start. He's got one of the most experienced men in the field challenging him. And I suppose the key here really is that when we saw Coulthard passing Button into this corner, it was because the car seemed to have a straight line speed advantage, and because possibly Button had some sort of vibration problem with his tyres. He was just unable to get the speed out of the top corner. But these two are pretty much identically matched in terms of pace, and I guess that makes it much harder to find a way past.
Well, Frentzen's always going to struggle in that famously fast turn 13, isn't he, with the turbulent air. So he's at a disadvantage before he ever hits the pit straight, and I certainly don't think he's got a speed advantage. He's clearly faster under braking, although you always get a bit of a concertina effect in those slow corners such as turn 5. And Button then pulls out of the way. Jenson Button with a problem, and through goes Frentzen as well. So what is happening to Jenson Button? He seemed to be coasting. Now he's building back speed again.
Well, he may have made a mistake, but it seemed intentional. He seemed to pull over to the side of the road. That's the way we saw it on the camera cut, but it may just be that he'd made a mistake, and that's why he seemed out of position on the racetrack. But it's well, it's been a distraction, but a very welcome one for Felipe Massa, because it means he is now in a points-paying position, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 7th is even closer to a point as the race leader comes round to lap them. This is lap 57. Into the last 10 laps here at Barcelona. Michael Schumacher just over half a minute up the road from Juan Montoya in second place. Coulthard third. We haven't seen him for a while, but he's going along quite nicely, lapping at a decent pace and holding position well and truly ahead of Nick Heidfeld, who's in fourth place. Jarno Trulli, who's in fourth place, he must have passed Jarno Trulli.
Yeah, there was a sick car just gone past the commentary box, and I wonder if it wasn't Jarno Trulli on that very last lap. We haven't seen it on screen, but something clearly not very healthy, and I think Heidfeld has leapfrogged Trulli up into that fourth place. Some 23 seconds behind Coulthard in third, so no chance of catching up the top three in any way, shape or form. That then is Massa, currently sixth. Frentzen is seventh. Button has dropped another place because it's Villeneuve eighth, Button in ninth, so quite clearly Button has problems. He's now lapping back in the 1 minute 27s, 1 minute 26 for Trulli. Both Renaults suffering a problem right now on the racetrack.
Yes, it's all going pear-shaped for the Renault team. They've been very quick all weekend, right on the pace, no doubt about it. Jenson Button was looking at a podium position at one stage before the first round of pit stops, but he's certainly not looking at it now. In fact, he's not even going to score a point the way things are going. He's down in ninth place. You're looking here at the battle for sixth place between Felipe Massa in the Sauber and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Arrows in seventh place. Well, we've lost a few cars this afternoon. We lost Rubens Barrichello on the parade lap with some form of problem in his gearbox that didn't allow him to take the start. Kimi Raikkonen's rear wing flew off. We've also lost De La Rosa, Fisichella, Sato, Bernoldi, Irvine and Panis. Ralf Schumacher had a curious incident where a bit of his front wing flew off after he ran wide. That dropped him down from second place to the 11th place that he now finds himself on as we enter the closing stages of this extraordinary, for want of a better word, Spanish Grand Prix. A lot of people thought this might be a bit of a dull afternoon's motor racing. The nature of the circuit here and the dominance of Michael Schumacher and Ferrari at the moment, but that is not the way it's played out. Well, certainly the lack of event anyway.
Yeah, plenty of action down the field, but not much change at the sharp end, of course. Michael Schumacher now cruising around, just lapping in any lap time he pleases, really. Still 37 seconds clear of this man Montoya, who's working hard to peg Coulthard, who's working equally hard. They're absolutely nip and tuck. One of them does a 22.7, so does the next. And that's 22.8 this time around, and the pair of them again within a few hundredths of a second, but Montoya keeping that crucial 5.2 second advantage, now up to 5.3 halfway through the lap.
And the great news coming up from the BMW Williams garage is that Carl Gaydon, the lollipop man who was injured or who appeared to be injured in that pit stop of Juan Montoya's where he ran over his foot, well, the news coming up from the pits is that he is fine. He's got his boots back on, would you believe, and he's ready to work if called to. Well, they make him tough in Brum, which is where Carl Gaydon comes from. Very tough boy indeed. 4 laps to go then of this Spanish Grand Prix. And Montoya looking set fair at the moment to take over second place in the World Championship ahead of his teammate Ralf Schumacher. And a solid drive this afternoon by Montoya after not a great practice session on Friday and not a particularly fantastic qualifying either. He had problems with his race car, had to switch to the spare, which I'm reliably informed was not equipped with the mega BMW qualifying engine, so he did well to get himself so close to Ralf Schumacher in qualifying, and but it's been a solid afternoon's work for him, as it has for this man too, David Coulthard, a very unpromising qualifying position down in 7th, and he's done well to get himself up to 3rd.
Yeah, I think Coulthard's got to be my driver of the day, actually. I mean, Michael's had a car advantage up front that just makes it so difficult to gauge it. Coulthard 16th in the warm-up, 7th on the grid. I think it's been a solid professional drive from him. Montoya's done a very similar job too, you're right to say, but I think that is what the McLaren team needed. It's amazing to say that, isn't it? Last year here, Häkkinen just about won the race by half, accepting half a lap before the engine failed. and Coulthard could still, having started from the back of the grid, could still have won the race. That was the performance advantage McLaren had here last year, but this year they're going to be pretty pleased, I think, with a podium. Jenson Button, you saw in the very background of that shot, now lapping some 10 seconds a lap slow, and now he's even slower than that.
Yes, it looks like he's got problems looking in his mirror for anybody coming through. Is Button going to make a visit to the pits? The Renault team don't look as though they're expecting it, but there's obviously something terminally wrong with that Renault. It seems to be intermittent, whatever it is, and it's caused him all kinds of headaches this afternoon. Poor old Jenson Button. But David Coulthard then is Martin's driver of the day, and celebrating 8 years as a Grand Prix driver this weekend. David Coulthard, and doing so in style. Just one podium so far this season to show for his efforts, and today it looks like he's going to get another one as Button pulls off the track.
Yeah, Jenson's had a great run though, hasn't he? He's had a lot of point scoring positions this year, yet to get on the podium, but I think he'll be well satisfied with his efforts of the weekend, even though sadly the cars let him down, and Jarno Trulli in the sister car is still lapping, but he's 9 seconds a lap off the pace too, so you would have to guess that they've both got the same problem.
Yeah, quite possibly. Trulli then still not scored any points in 2002. We're into the final 2 laps as Michael Schumacher takes into turn 1, up the hill into 2, then the long right-hander at 3. It's a torture, absolute torture on the tyres, this. It's an abrasive surface here in Barcelona, and they have to build the tyres pretty robust. That's why it's a 2-stop race as well, because it's so heavy cars really do punish the tyres even more. Into the left-hander then for Schumacher. It's called the Seat corner. Picking up the speed about 140 miles an hour as he comes down. And he's going to have that battle between Frentzen and Felipe Massa right in front of him. But he's got 36 seconds in his pocket, and I imagine he will not want to get stuck into those two and have the trouble of having to lap them. I think he'll probably just take it a little bit easy and let them have their own tussle in what is, after all, a battle for 5th place. Schumacher leading, Montoya 2nd, Coulthard 3rd, Heidfeld 4th. So it looks like more solid points for the Sauber team this afternoon. Massa 5th, increasing as well for Sauber's tally. Frentzen then set fair at the moment to give Arrows their first point in 15 races, and there'll be some serious celebrations down there in the Orange Arrows pit, because they've waited a long time for this, and Frentzen has driven superbly all weekend to give them this chance.
Yes indeed, and Villeneuve's 8 seconds behind him in 7th, so I don't think Frenzen's going to come under any kind of pressure as Trulli hits the ailing Renault and presumably out of the race, currently in 8th. That'll put McNish up to 8th. Ralf Schumacher, who's really coasting after his early problems, will move up to 9th. Salo in the 2nd Toyota up into 10th. Just 10 runners then, assuming Trulli does not rejoin the racetrack. 10 runners out of the 20 starters.
A very high attrition rate here in Barcelona, as we've seen many times in the past, but Michael Schumacher is just a few corners away from his 57th career Grand Prix victory and his 4th of this 2002 season. He's chasing that magical 5th World Championship, and he's taken a big step closer to it here this afternoon, as many people predicted.
Waving to the crowd, look, James, having a little wave as he comes through those final 2 corners, and you don't often see Michael Schumacher doing that.
No, but he can take it easy, he can afford to, because Michael Schumacher wins yet again. He wins in Spain. A dominant performance from him, a dominant performance from the Ferrari team. Celebrations as always on the pit wall, but they're getting used to it now up there. They've had so many of them during Schumacher's time with the team. Juan Montoya, they're coming through to finish in 2nd place. He's just half a minute. Doesn't sound much, does it, to say it, but it's a lot in Formula 1 terms at the end of a 65-lap Grand Prix. Montoya to come 2nd, and we're waiting to see Coulthard as well, who we expect to finish in 3rd place. So solid points for both of those 2 drivers, and Montoya seems pleased enough, doesn't he, with his afternoon's work. He goes 2nd in the World Championship, and there is Coulthard registering yet another podium.
Coulthard will move up to 4th, I think, then, just ahead of new arch rival Jenson Button then. So Michael Schumacher leads by 44 points. Ralf Schumacher did not get to the end of the Grand Prix. He was running 10th anyway, so out of the points. Michael Schumacher 44 points, Montoya 23, Ralf Schumacher 20 points, Coulthard 9, Jenson Button 8th, Rubens Barrichello just 6 miserable points. And, well, you've got to feel sorry for poor old Rubens.
Yep, Nick Heidfeld's crossed the line to collect 4th for Sauber. 5th goes Felipe Massa, and he had Heinz-Harald Frentzen almost level with him as they crossed the line, and that means points for Arrows. Fantastic news, and a big up to everybody down in Ledbury. Well done to you all. You've worked very, very hard for this moment. They had one test so far this season, which they did at Silverstone last week. It's yielded a new front wing and a step on the engine from Cosworth, and it's paid handsomely here this weekend. So terrific, well done to everybody at Arrows.
And both Saubers in the points. We thought they'd be there somewhere, didn't we? And look, that's an engine failure for Ralf on the last lap. So a great afternoon for him, has it?
No, it hasn't. But the older Schumacher, is he going to stop and pick his brother up? I think he might. No, he doesn't want to be, he doesn't want it. Don't want your charity, mate. No, thank you.
The PR people hate that because Ralph's going to get on the Ferrari with all of his badges on, and the PR people find that a nightmare when there's all sorts of different conflicting sponsors. But it's always a good shot, isn't it? But two brothers would have been a great piece of TV, wouldn't it? The two brothers on the winning Ferrari.
Yes, well, I think Ralf was thinking of his image there. He was thinking, do I really want to be seen as the sort of lame duck being given a lift home by my superstar brother who's won 57 Grand Prix to my miserable little 4?
Well, also it's pretty scary riding on those things because you're all strapped in and you've just been doing incredible speed, so you pull off what you think is absolutely so gently away, and you're hanging on for grim death onto the airbox sitting on the side pod. It's not actually a very smart place to be, considering you'll go straight underneath the rear wheel if you fall off, and I think we've seen enough people underneath the Formula One wheels for one day.
Yeah, we certainly have. So all the storylines going into this race, how have they been answered? Well, Williams did indeed finish best of the rest behind Ferrari, but it was Montoya, not Ralf Schumacher on this occasion. Renault versus McLaren. Well, today, David Coulthard's 3rd place would suggest McLaren, but there was not much in it on pace, really. And Button, certainly in the early part of the race, seemed to be comfortable in front of the McLaren. Saubers, yes, indeed, they came through, didn't they? 4th and 5th, picking up those points. And the Bridgestone tyre also saw the Arrows team safely through into 6th place as well. We've seen a few wings flying off this weekend, off Minardi's and McLaren's. There'll be some question marks about that, definitely. And high reliability problems once again. There's a huge car park actually at the pit lane entrance with all the cars that failed to finish this race, but they made it as far as the pits. But Michael Schumacher, no problems for him, and he's still as excited today when he wins a race as he was that day in Spa back in 1992 when he won his first race 10 years ago. It's great to see, isn't it? Jean Todt there, the sporting director of Ferrari, and that means that the fact that he's down there means that he's sending somebody else up onto the podium. I'm just trying to see who it is.
Well, they don't have to race to get up there, do they? They're sort of pretty sure they're going to be up there fairly regularly this season. Michael Schumacher with nearly double the points of Montoya. How early have we got to start practicing? Michael Schumacher, 5 times world champion, James. He even had time to wave at the crowd. He had time to wander around with his lap times by up to 3 seconds a lap, just as he pleased.
Well, there we are, Michael Schumacher yet again. Wow, and he's doing, well, a Toyota leap. It's on a Ferrari leap. So the red juggernaut, it continues to sort of roll. But AJ, I get a lot of people come to me and say, oh, it's getting to the point where, you know, it's always Schumacher, Schumacher, Schumacher. But I guess every era, you know, you go back to Fangio, he was so dominant. Jim Clark was so dominant. Jackie Stewart was dominant.
Ayrton Senna, remember Ayrton Senna and the McLarens?
Exactly.
It wasn't 5 or 6 years ago or 7 years ago. People were saying, oh, those bloody McLarens are always running 1-2. It's always Ayrton Senna.
Alain Prost.
Alain Prost, so forth and so on. And that's what Formula One's about. It's getting the technological edge over somebody, which Ferrari's got at the moment, and now they're the dominating force. Who knows? Hopefully Williams BMW will come good. You know, who knows? Jaguar might come. They've got their own wind tunnel now. They got it 3 weeks ago, and they're starting work quite earnestly on the aerodynamics of that car, which hopefully will drag them up the grid a bit more than what they have been. But, you know, to a certain degree, that's what Formula One's about. But I still keep harping back to the fact I'd like to see a bit more passing,
Sure.
even midfield, because I think aerodynamics are probably playing too important a role in Formula One.
But then again, there was a good improvement by Renault tonight, and I mean Sauber have done a terrific job. I mean, when you have a look at Eddie Jordan, I mean, he's just having the worst season of all time. But there's a lot of promise being shown there. Look at the celebrations there. Montoya be happy with second, and I think Coulthard, as the boys said, it was a pretty good drive from him, solid drive.
Yeah, well, I mean, he needs it. I mean, McLaren need it, and it sort of keeps Montoya in there as well. I mean, those points that he picked up tonight, you know, it does keep him in there, and it probably, even though Schumacher's probably got twice his points now, but anyway, he's enjoying himself. He's having a good old time with the mum by the look of it.
This has become the new thing now. You drop the bottle down to the turn.
Yeah, one day he's going to hit somebody on the head. I can kill somebody. That'll be the end of that.
They're a nice trophy, that, like the steering wheel.
Yeah, chrome version of that. I still reckon the Australian Grand Prix one's the best one, though.
Well,
I'm
it's
a
funny,
bit biased, but
when we went to the Williams factory, I mean, that was the one that they really had on display. I mean, it seems to be very popular with the drivers too.
But, well, there you go. Here's the results. Michael Schumacher yet again for Ferrari over Montoya. Coulthard third. Nick Heidfeld and Massa, great fourth and fifth for Sauber. And Heinz Harald Frentzen, much earned 1 point for Arrows.